The biggest myth about racial ethnic disparities in infant mortality is that people think that this has to do with just socioeconomics and that the disparities are really the consequences of racial difference in socioeconomic status. And it isn't that simple.
Infant mortality among white American women with a college degree or higher is about 4 deaths per 1,000 births. But among African American women with the same level of education, infant mortality is about 10 per 1,000 births, almost 3 times higher. In fact, African American mothers with a college degree have worse birth outcomes than white mothers without a high school education.
Think about this. We're talking about African American doctors, lawyers, and business executives, and they still have a higher infant mortality rate than non-Hispanic white women who never went to high school in the first place. So what I've been calling for is a rethinking of an old problem from a new perspective, and to really rethink racial and ethnic disparities in birth outcomes from the life course perspective. And simply put, the life course perspective posits that birth outcomes are the product of not simply the 9 months of pregnancy, but really the consequences of differential exposures across the life course of women of color. We know that racism is stressful, and we know that stress can impact on the health in many different ways. It creates this chronic wear and tear on your body's systems to adapt. It wears on the hormonal system, it wears on the immune inflammatory functions, it wears on your metabolic functions, and over time it creates an overload on all of these organs and systems so that they no longer function optimally.
Everyday racism is like gunning the engine of a car without ever letting up. In fact, people who've looked at blood pressures, measuring ambulatory blood pressures for white folks and black folks, young folks, see that the blood pressures might be the same during the day, but at night the white folks' blood pressures would drop, and the black folks' blood pressures would stay the same. And so it is. It's like gunning the engine of that car, just wearing it out without rest. And I think that the stresses of everyday racism are doing that.
And then if you were to carry that into the pregnancy, then that gets embedded in both the pregnancy physiology of the mother and the developmental biology of the child. We certainly have done a lot in terms of increasing access and utilization of prenatal care, especially amongst communities of color, and yet we've done very little to reduce prematurity rates. I think that the problem is that with prenatal care, you're trying to cram all these good things into less than 9 months of prenatal care, and then expecting everything to turn out all right in the end, and to expect prenatal care in less than 9 months to reverse all the cumulative disadvantages and iniquities that's being carried forth over a life course of differential exposures is probably expecting too much of prenatal care. So if we're serious about improving birth outcomes and reducing disparities, we got to start taking care of women before pregnancy. And I'm not just talking about that one visit 3 months preconceptionally, I'm talking about when she's a baby inside her mother's womb, and an infant and a child and an adolescent, and really taking care of women and families across their life course if we really want to do something about improving pregnancy outcomes.